Half buried in the dark earth of a peach orchard, a machete lay forgotten. Its handle was worn smooth, the blade tarnished with rust, and something darker. Just a tool left under the California sun, but sometimes an object tells a story. This one whispered of sweat, toil, and a violence that would stain Sutter County forever. The year, 1971. The Central Valley air was thick with the scent of fruit and dust. Men came from everywhere for work, moving with the seasons, chasing simple dreams. But beneath the green canopy, a shadow crept, a silent predator with a machete. This blade was more than a tool. It was a key to a nightmare. It had seen the faces of men who traveled far for hope, men who were invisible, easily forgotten. Their disappearances went unreported, their absences unnoticed. The machete was the last thing many ever saw, a silent witness to betrayal and brutality. It would tell of trust turned terror, of evil that moved quietly, methodically. The blade became a symbol, a tombstone for the unnamed. Soon, the truth would be unearthed, grave by shallow grave. The horror would shake this quiet community, leaving a scar that would never heal. In the orchard, the story began with a feeling something was terribly wrong. The sun-drenched days and cold nights hid secrets in the soil. The lifeblood of the valley, migrant workers, were vanishing. No headlines, no missing persons reports, just silence. The machete, resting in the dirt, was the prelude to a horror about to be revealed. And the land itself would never be the same. The Central Valley in the early 70s was a world apart. Flat, abundant, and relentless. Towns like Yuba City thrived on the harvest, drawing migrant workers who lived on the fringes. These men were essential, yet invisible, ghosts in the machine, drifting with the seasons. Their anonymity made them vulnerable. If one vanished, who would notice? Families were far away, roots shallow, alarms never sounded. They were the perfect victims. A quiet fear settled over the camps. Men were vanishing. One day, a bunk was empty, belongings left behind. Some said they moved on, but others weren't so sure. Stories spread. Men last seen getting into a pickup, never returning. Suspicion grew. Who could you trust? Every new face was a question mark. The orchards, once symbols of opportunity, now seemed sinister. The rustling leaves became whispers. The long shadows threatened to swallow a man whole. The men felt it in their bones. Something was wrong. The valley's beauty masked a growing terror, and the silence was deafening. The disappearances rippled outward, barely noticed at first. Kenneth Whitaker was found dead, stabbed, brutalized, dismissed as an isolated tragedy. Then Charles Fleming vanished. Then Melford Sample. The list grew. These were men on the margins, drifters, alcoholics, easy to forget. The attacks were savage, almost ritualistic. Victims were lured with promises of work or a drink, taken to secluded spots. There, the violence exploded, always a blade, often a machete. The blows were meant to obliterate, fueled by inexplicable hatred. The pattern became clear: older, single, white men, new to the area, few ties. Whispers spread: be careful, don't accept rides, watch out for Juan Corona. Corona, a labor contractor, knew the orchards well, always looking for workers, but something about him unsettled people. Despite mounting fear, the official response was muted. These men weren't missed by the community. Their disappearances were written off. Authorities failed to connect the dots, and the killer continued unchecked. The orchards kept their secrets. The body count rose. The men in the camps grew more fearful, more isolated. The violence was personal, the evil methodical. The community looked away, and the nightmare deepened. The killer moved freely, hidden in plain sight. The valley's silence protected him, and the graves multiplied. The break came by chance. A farmer found a fresh grave in his orchard. Deputies unearthed Kenneth Whitaker, stabbed and bludgeoned. In his pocket receipts, signed by Juan Corona. Suddenly, the whispers had a name. Corona was a respected labor contractor, a family man with a volatile temper. The investigation accelerated. The image of Corona began to crumble. Police learned of his brother Natividad's violent past and Juan's history of mental illness. The case was no longer about one murder. It hinted at something far bigger. Tension gripped the community. The name Corona was everywhere. Deputies searched the orchards where his crews worked, looking for evidence. What they found would shock the nation. The slow dread haunting the camps was about to explode into public horror. The police were on the verge of uncovering a killing field. The community braced for the truth. The orchards were about to give up their dead, and the scale of the nightmare would soon be revealed. The valley's secrets were coming to light. Deputies focused on the Sullivan Ranch orchard, where Corona's crews had worked. They found grave after grave, a relentless, horrifying procession. Each shallow grave held a man, each killed with savage violence. The scent of blossoms mixed with death as news crews arrived. The community watched in shock as the body count climbed. 4, 5, 10, 20. All men, all bearing the killer's signature. Deep wounds from a heavy blade. The morgue overflowed. The nation was stunned. On May 26th, 2 bodies in one grave brought the total to 25. 25 men, discarded in the fields where they sought work. Juan Corona was now one of America's most prolific serial killers. The orchard's secret was out, a landscape of death impossible to fathom. The Valley of Shadows had been dragged into the light. Juan Corona's arrest was quiet. No chase, no struggle. To neighbors, he was a family man. To police, a prime suspect in a killing spree. In custody, Corona was emotionless, denying everything. Investigators found blood-stained knives, a machete, a pistol, and a chilling notebook. A ledger of 34 names. 7 matched bodies from the orchards. The community reeled, struggling to reconcile the man they knew with the monster described by police. Corona remained silent, an enigma at the center of the storm. The evidence was overwhelming. The question was no longer if he did it, but how such evil could hide in plain sight. The valley's horror had a face, but no answers. Juan Corona's trial was a spectacle, the most expensive in California's history. The prosecution presented receipts, the death ledger, weapons, and witness testimony. 25 bodies told a damning story. The defense claimed Corona was framed, pointing to his brother Natividad as the real killer. They argued evidence was contaminated, the investigation sloppy. Corona sat silent, his demeanor unsettling to all. Was he a cold killer or a bewildered scapegoat? The jury found him guilty on all counts. 25 life sentences ensured he'd never walk free. The trial ended, but the questions lingered. Even with a verdict, the case was far from closed. Could one man have done it all? The theory of an accomplice, his brother Natividad, never faded. Natividad vanished to Mexico, never questioned. Motive remained a mystery. Corona never explained, maintaining his innocence. The ledger listed 34 names, but only 25 bodies were found. Were there more victims, or just names of workers? The unanswered questions hung over the case, a permanent fog. The valley's secrets were never fully revealed. The orchards still stand, but the land is forever changed. The soil remembers the horror unearthed here. The victims, men on the fringes, remain ghosts, their names nearly forgotten. Their tragedy exposes how society treats its most vulnerable. Silence allowed evil to thrive. Silence from victims, community, and killer. Corona died in prison, taking his secrets with him. The Feather River flows on, washing over buried secrets. The case is closed, but the ghosts remain. They are a silent memorial, a warning to never ignore the shadows. Sometimes, the quietest places hold the most terrible stories.